Well, Valentine's week continues with the Tony and Say Show.
Here we are again. Hi.
Today we want to talk to you about the 5 stressors that start to stress a relationship, and if you don't deal with them, they start to break down, damage, and in some cases actually destroy or kill a relationship. And they're little things, but they add up really quickly. So let's get right to it. The first one is loss of attraction. Now, you think about attraction, a lot of people say, well, that's not the basis of a relationship. But when you look at a relationship and you're talking about an intimate relationship, the only difference between an intimate relationship and a friendship is intimacy. And when that loss of attraction is there, when that energy and when you don't feel desired isn't there, it starts to affect the relationship.
And a lot of times it isn't what you think it is. You know, sometimes we as women, we're so hard on ourselves. You think it's the way you look, or you might think it's your body, or you might think it's something else. With Tony and I, sometimes, you know, if there's something going on in our life, and maybe I'll feel more tension, and, you know, I'm in more of a masculine mode from a business perspective, and it's amazing. In a moment, that polarity can shift. In a moment, and vice versa on Tone's side as well. It's just unbelievable how that shift can happen in a moment. And on the other side of it, it can happen in a moment just to switch that fire back and that light switch back on.
That's absolutely right.
The chemistry is instant.
Instantaneous. I mean, it's like magic. Or a woman who goes from being tight and controlling everything
more masculine
to letting go and being truly free, and then her radiance flows. So attraction can change in seconds. What really is important, though, is if you consistently feel like there's a loss of attraction in the relationship, it changes your filter on each other's behaviors.
It does.
And it goes to the second stressor now. All of a sudden, with a loss of attraction, there's an increase in irritation, there's irritation. Yeah. People start to get very often where they get emotionally stacked, like little things start to bug them. And in worst case, they get to stonewalling. So we'll give you an example. There's 4 R's that we talk about that actually this came out of a couple of our friends who are both relationship experts who got divorced, but they learned from that experience, and they both were trying to figure out what destroyed their relationship. And they were sharing with us, and they said, well, the first thing is there's that initial resistance, you know, where somebody says something or somebody does something, your partner does it, and you're like, oh, you know, wish they wouldn't do that, but you don't say anything because you know it's not appropriate to say anything. It's not that big a deal. But if you don't deal with the resistance level...
And we always call it speaking the unspokens. If you don't speak the unspokens and you don't speak that resistance, then that resistance becomes the next, and it becomes a little bit deeper, which is the resentment. And all of these unspokens and the anchors and the stackings, they all go deeper. Yeah,
and what happens when it starts to become a resentment, the way you kind of know that is you start going, why does he or why does she always have to tell that story? Or, you know, why is he always late or she always late? And why do we have to go through this? But you still don't necessarily say much at that stage.
It's true, and you feel an emotion sometimes. You just wake up in the morning and feel a charge, and you don't even know where it came from.
And it's just that built up, what it was, resistances that you didn't deal with. And by the way, the resistances may have just been your stuff.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you didn't come and say, gosh, honey, I know this is my stuff, but I was kind of reacting to this thing. It's not you, but I just want to tell you, I got to shift this, or would you help me with this? If you can just talk about it, it's different. But if you don't, that resistance turns into resentment. If that resentment isn't dealt with, it starts to show up as rejection. That's when somebody starts going, why do you always do that? Or they, you know, when you overreact to somebody, you're not reacting to this moment. You're reacting to the fact that it happened again in your mind. And so people, by the way, when you start rejecting them or being really overly harsh, they don't know why you're doing this, and so then they feel really wounded. They tend to then reject you back, and it spirals it even worse.
Crazy 8 that happens, or the rejection of, you know, I'm out of here. And, you know, in that space, there's words that are spoken that it's just, there's that emotional charge. Now we're getting in deeper, and you're getting a level of charge and honestly toxicity in the relationship that you don't want. And we so stay in our relationship just with these. Once again, it's the awareness. And once you have this awareness, you can see where you are. It's like, you know what, I'm feeling resistance right now. That you can speak that unspokens, and you don't get to level 3 and 4.
And my girl has no difficulty expressing her resistance or resentments. But the great thing, seriously, is we both tease. We have these little play fights where she'll say, you know, honey, you're driving me a little crazy right now. Or I'll do the same thing with her, but we do it not from a harsh place.
Not from a harsh, exactly.
Yeah, and then it gets the energy out, and then you don't build it up. Right. So there is a 4th level, but we're out of time. So we'll see you tomorrow. Seriously. Well, all right, well, I'll give
okay, here we go.
The last piece just to finish there is when you get to a place where now you're repressing. In other words, resistance grew to resentment. Resentment got yourself to a point of rejection where you're kind of being harsh with each other. Some people get tired of being harsh with each other, and they just surrender.
And they're just numb.
That's right. They go into what we call learned helplessness, where it's just like, not going to get any better, so it is. And those times, very often, when other couples meet them, they'll say, oh, those guys are best friends.
They're great. Yeah. They're neutral. They get along.
They never fight.
All is well.
You know, that's the first thing. The fact they never fight is a little clue, right?
It's very benign.
Because what they do is they lower their expectation for the relationship, and they start filling up through their work or through their kids or through shopping or through something else. And what happens in that relationship is it's really dead. Or maybe it's a decent friendship, but you can be friends with anybody. Again, you can't be intimate with anybody. So our whole thing is about love and passion, not settling for one or the other, like taking it up another notch. And so breaking the pattern of these 4 R's is really critical. We're going to come back to step 3, or the 3rd, 4th, and 5th stressor, but we really will do that tomorrow. So join us back on the blog tomorrow. Till then, love with passion.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.